Hello. Good morning, all of you. Okay, let us start. We don't have time to waste. So, let us begin. Today I am going to give some brief details, and also I will touch wherever there is a necessity, somewhat little bit deeper discussion. But mostly we will talk about the things which are not commonly understandable by the common people like me. Okay, let us begin the story. Here they are talking about in plant kingdom. The concepts will be, say, first of all, why they have given this kind of introduction here. The reason is this: before Whittaker system of classification, plant kingdom was different. After Whittaker system of classification, plant kingdom is different. For example, before Whittaker system, the plantae used to have monerans, that's bacteria, and also fungi, and all plants. All plants. What do you mean by all plants? Algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, all of them will be present. You know that. What the reason behind such kind of criteria? The reason is this: they followed a phenomena called, they means Linnaeus system. Whoever having cell wall, all must be present in one kingdom. That was the thought of Linnaeus. Since fungi, some members of Protista, and etc., all are having, okay, the cell wall in their body. That's the reason behind that is the reason behind keeping all these organisms in one kingdom. But in 1969, when Whittaker came to the field of classification, he followed certain rules and regulation. Based on those rules and regulation, whatever the members that we have kept in the kingdom plantae before that 1969, they have been totally changed. We have given to this fungi separate fungal kingdom. Monerans, that's nothing but bacteria, all are separated and given separate kingdom. Now plantae will be having, according to 5 kingdom classification, the plantae possess, what are the groups of plants? Simple. According to 5 kingdom classification, plantae consist of, plantae possess, first of all, algae. But here something you have to be noticed. When it comes to algae, according to 5 kingdom classification, algae consist of 3 classes: Chlorophyceae, green algae; Phaeophyceae, brown algae; Rhodophyceae, red algae. But before Whittaker system, the algae consist of 4 classes. What are they? Blue-green algae, which is known as Cyanophyceae; green algae, Chlorophyceae; brown algae, red algae, usual. But when 5 kingdom classification began, Whittaker noticed this Cyanophyceae members, so-called blue-green algae, are not eukaryotes. Green algae, brown algae, red algae are eukaryotes. So he excluded the Cyanophyceae members from algal category and renamed them in the form of bacteria. What bacteria it is? Cyanobacteria. From that time onwards, a new name has introduced to them, that is called cyanobacteria, and changed their location from kingdom plantae to, which is nothing but from algae, to a kingdom that is called Monera. From that moment onwards, blue-green algae are not algae anymore. They are called cyanobacteria. Right now, blue-green algae, which is an old version of the name of them, the new version of name of them is called cyanobacteria. Clear? That's what they wanted to say here in this paragraph. Okay? Protista, fungi, animalia, plantae, that chapter. Okay? We must stress that our understanding of the plant kingdom has changed over the time. Fungi, the members of the Monera and Protista, have cell wall, now been excluded from the plantae. Who excluded them? Whittaker. placed them in the same, that means before they were placed in the same kingdom, now they have been excluded from the kingdom Plantae. Next one. So the cyanobacteria also referred as blue green algae, not algae anymore. According to the Whittaker, you should not call the cyanobacteria as blue green algae, you have to call it as cyanobacteria only. In the chapter, okay, let us look at the classification within the plants. There are some kind of things they have given overall here. Okay, let us briefly understand what they wanted to say here. Remember, kingdom Plantae is not very few members. Plantae consist of variety of plants. In order to classify them properly, there were so many people suggested so many methods of classification. I am not talking about all the organisms, I am talking about only plants. Within the plant kingdom, we have variety of other groups of plants, variety of groups and then divisions, subdivisions, etc., etc. there. In order to make them properly to be classified, we have various types of classification systems included variety of groups of plants in the kingdom Plantae. For that, they wanted to give clarity regarding to that. Okay, here first of all, classification, the first mode of classification, that was artificial classification. You know who proposed it? Of course, Linnaeus. He was the founding father of the classification systems over there. When he given the classification regarding to plants, be careful, Linnaeus was not just classified plants, he classified all organisms into two kingdoms. Do you remember? Plantae and Animalia. In that Plantae, there were so many flaws were identified, but we are talking within the Plantae, especially about angiosperms. If you consider, there you will get Linnaeus divided plants, especially angiosperms, into various groups based on their vegetative characters as well as their reproductive characters. What are the reproductive characters he considered? Androecium structure, which is nothing but stamen, number of stamens, length of the stamens, and how they are arranged, that is monoadelphous, diadelphous, etc., etc. What type of arrangement is there in their male reproductive structure? By following these rules, he divided plants into various kinds of families. But later, this kind of thing has been disproved. Why? Artificial system, which is proposed by the Linnaeus, giving equal weightage to sexual characters as well as vegetative characters. What is the problem if he had given equal weightage to both of them? Vegetative character often varies from environment to environment, whereas reproductive characters are fixed. If a plant has 10 stamens, whatever the environment that plant has, the stamen will never going to change. But if a plant has 10 leaves, you grow that plant in nutrient rich area, nutrient deficient area, number of the leaf would be definitely show some sort of variations. That's the reason why vegetative and reproductive characters are not to be considered as the same. Because of this criteria, artificial system of classification proposed by the Linnaeus has been considered inadequate. Later, in order to classify plants into various families, two people have entered in the field. They were called George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. These two people proposed a new methodology only for angiosperms I am talking about. That is called natural system of classification. Here in this, not only considering vegetative and few reproductive characters, mainly they are following reproductive characters, and also they follow criteria like, internal structure and anatomy, embryology, etc., etc. This criteria is called natural system of classification. Be careful, natural system of classification divided the plants, especially angiosperms, into various types of families based on their particular variety of reproductive characters. That should be noticeable. Next, after that, angiosperms were also divided based on phylogenetic classification. You know that phylogeny means evolutionary relation, who originated first and who later. For example, if you consider within the plant kingdom, the first developed plants are algae. Recently developed plants are angiosperms. Among the angiosperms, very recently developed one is monocots. Like that, if you classify the organisms into various types of groups based upon their evolutionary relation, this criteria is called phylogenetic system of classification. Here in this, over the phylogenetic system of classification, one thing to be noticed, that is, the organisms belongs to same taxa possess common ancestor. For example, all algae will have one common ancestor. All bryophytes will have another common ancestor. Like that, a taxa possesses common ancestor, that's called phylogenetic system of classification. Numerical taxonomy that follows computer-based analysis. You can divide plants based on several characters by using computer analysis, computer data. That's called natural system. Cytotaxonomy, that is based on cytological information, that is chromosome number, very important. Chromosome number would be constant for a species, and also their behavior during cell division and how they are going to be arranged. Altogether, we can divide. Next one, chemotaxonomy, chemical basis. What is this chemotaxonomy? Especially it is based on phytochemistry. This is important. Let us elaborate. What is phytochemistry? Remember, plants will have a special kind of substances in their body called secondary metabolites. When we were studying about secondary metabolites, we have come across plants, fungi, bacteria produce some chemicals other than primary metabolites. Those metabolites are called secondary metabolites. Let us see what is the importance of these secondary metabolites in the classification system. Secondary metabolites like alkaloids, flavonoids, terpenoids, variety of substances are there in the list of secondary metabolites. These substances unique for a particular group of plant. For example, this species is producing this kind of terpenoid. That chemical will be belongs to only such kind of species. Like that, if you are dividing the plants into various families or groups based on their phytochemistry or chemical composition, this is called phytochemical taxonomy. Is it okay? So chemotaxonomy also followed nowadays. Next one, come back to algae. Remember some details about algae. First thing, they are, remember the story, during the course of evolution, algae were the first plants, of course. But when you talk about algae, algal body is thalloid. That's why they are called thallophytes. What phytes? Thallophytes. What does it mean by thallophytes? Thallus. Thallus means an organized body. What does it mean by unorganized body? If you take a typical plant, root, stem, leaf are the flowers. Flowers are the typical organs. But when you talk about thallophytes, especially algae, they don't have all these organs. You cannot find roots, you cannot find leaf, you cannot find stem. Such kind of plants which are unorganized bodies, we will call them as thallophytes. In that case, this thallophyte by possess, for example, they have root-like structure. Root-like. The root-like bodies are called rhizoids. Rhizo means root. And sometimes they have stem-like structure, that is called colloid. Sometimes they will have leaf-like structure also, that is called phylloid. That's it. I am not saying algae possess root, stem, leaf. Instead of that, they have root-like rhizoid, stem-like colloid, leaf-like phylloid. But these structures are also not could be clearly seen. That's why they are called thallophytes. Next one, algae. When you discuss about them, they are non-archegonids. Archegonids. What do you mean by non-archegonids? First of all, who is this archegonium? Remember, female sex organ in most of the plants. Now, I'm not saying all. Okay, in most of the plants, they do not have they have one more time clearly. Most of the plants will have archegonium as the female sex organ. But this archegonium is not properly developed in algae. Since archegonium is absent, there should be some kind of female sex organ who should be working in place. That is called oogonium. Are you getting the idea? So they have oogonium. Since they don't have archegonium where most of the plants possess, that's why they are called non-archegonids. And you know that they don't have xylem and phloem, and they don't have properly well established organs of the other plants. This is the primary information regarding to algae. Next one. Algae also mostly aquatic. Some live in fresh water, some live in brackish water, some live in marine, that is salt water, but altogether most of the algae are aquatic. Next one. They are talking about the same story. They have even mentioned about some algae will be symbiotically associated on the top of the sloth bear, that we know very well. Then observe from the size wise, some are colonial, for example volvax. Some are unicellular. Do you remember? Unicellular. You observe that with form of size highly variable, ranging from colonial, volvax, filamentous, Elothrex, Spirogyra. Closely observe that they did not say unicellular. Why they did not say unicellular? We have excluded this unicellular algae from kingdom Plantae Protista. Chlamydomonas, chlorella, they were present in the kingdom Plantae before 5 kingdom classification because they are algae. But when we have given a separate kingdom for all unicellular eukaryotes, we have taken chlorella and chlamydomonas from the green algae and placed in the kingdom Protista. That's why they have not mentioned here unicellular. But while we are studying about their examples, for example, you have removed chlorella from the algae. So for example, from the green algae you have removed chlorella. Is it okay? But still it is green algae. You have removed chlamydomonas from green algae and placed in the kingdom Protista, but still it is green algae. When we talking about green algae, be careful. When you talking about green algae, you can notice chlamydomonas because still it is algae, but present in the kingdom Protista according to 5 kingdom classification. But when they are giving general characters, they did not mention about unicellular, but because all unicellular eukaryotes have a separate kingdom in the name of Protista. So Elothrex and Spirogyra, these are filamentous and also kelp. Be careful, kelps are the massive bodies which are generally brown algae. Brown algae. Next, about reproduction, most common spores are zoospores. Since they are living in water, they can swim within the water. Zoospores can able to swim within the water and easily can move from place to place. So most of them are zoospores. Next one, some are having aplanospores. One body is there, that is aplanospores, that is Spirogyra. Spirogyra produces non-motile spores. Non-motile spores. Remember one thing, Spirogyra, even though it's a green algae, but it is not ready to produce any kind of motile spores or motile gametes. Non-motile bodies will be there in case of Spirogyra. Next one. If you are talking about sexual reproduction, now tell me, sexual reproduction in case of algae, it is internal or external? Observe one thing. Blindly go like this. Wherever you talk about Plantae, always fertilization is internal. There is no plant group which can perform external fertilization. Even though algae, they live in water, they will have the condition call it as female sex organ. That female sex organ is the place where, is it clear? Now, when you talk about that male and female gametes fusion, Sometimes they are isogamy, sometimes they are anisogamy, sometimes they are oogamy. Let us have the clarity there. These gametes may be isogametes, fusion of two gametes, okay, gametes similar in size, as in case of Velothrex, non-Velothrex flagellated, Spirogyra non-flagellated isogamy called isogamous. Two gametes dissimilar in size species of Eudorina, which is termed as anisogamous, and most of the volvax and fucus will have oogamous. I have seen many students are confusing there about oogamy and anisogamy. Remember one thing, I will have anisogamy. Observe this. When it comes to anisogamy, dissimilar gametes, that's what we have learned. Anisogamy means dissimilar gametes. But what about oogamy? Oogamy is also a variety of anisogamy, but it is special type of anisogamy. What is the story? In oogamous species, they have a female sex organ called oogonium. I'm talking about oogamous bodies, oogonium. Within the oogonium, there will be a presence of large non-motile or static egg. The static egg, large one, which is within the oogonium. And male gamete will come by either swimming or without swimming. It's not necessary that male gamete should be motile. Okay? Male gamete may be motile or non-motile, either condition. But here, male gamete should be somewhat smaller than female gamete. Male gamete either by swimming or without swimming with the help of water current. If the male gamete fuses this female gamete, that condition is called as oogamy. Now, what is the speciality of oogamy? Oogamy is happening within the oogonium, but oogamy is a kind of anisogamy. How do you say that? Because in oogamous bodies, female gamete is larger, male gamete is smaller. Sometimes the male gamete motile, sometimes the male gamete is non-motile. Altogether, you will have a condition called it as anisogamy. But they are saying, remember that volvax conduct anisogamy, oogamy, isogamy. What is your choice of selection? You select oogamy because there will be many members who will have anisogamy. Very few members will have oogamy. Okay? Next, again, one more statement about general plant kingdom. Oogamy is the kind of fertilization that could be seen in all kinds of algae as well as bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. All of them will be conducting one mode of fertilization that's called oogamy. Be careful. Imagine, what did you say about oogamy? Come on. Large female gamete, small male gamete, it may be motile or non-motile. Okay? This situation we would be see in all kinds of plants. Go for bryophytes, go for pteridophytes, go for all varieties of plants. The oogamy character will be common. Very important. Are you getting the idea? You take bryophytes, same situation. I will notice it there later on. You go to gymnosperms. There also siphonogamous oogamy. What kind of oogamy? Siphonogamous oogamy. What is this siphonogamous oogamy? For example, this is the egg. Egg would be kept in ovule. Okay? On the ovule, male gamete will come and sit. It will send its content toward the female with the help of pollen tube. This is called siphonogamous oogamy. The one mode of fertilization that is common for all groups of plants, that should be oogamy. Okay? Then they have mentioned only here fucus. Be careful. Listen, somebody has given a bryophyte and they are saying bryophytes perform oogamy. Correct. Pteridophytes, oogamy. Correct. But why did they have given only two examples? These are the algae which perform oogamy. I am not saying oogamy is just for only algae. Oogamy is common for all plants, but some of the algae are performing oogamy. That's why we have specially mentioned here Volvax and Fucus. Clear my words? Next one. Come back to the statement about various groups of algae. This one you can understand. Algae are useful for variety of ways. Okay. In that case, algae, some are used as food. 70 different varieties of marine algae are used as food. Among them, Sargassum, Laminaria, and Polysiphonia, etc. They have given. Algine, that is extracted from brown algae. Carrageen. They have not mentioned one word called agar. Agar, carrageen are extracted from red algae. Remember, they are called phycocolloids. What do you mean by phycocolloids? Phyco means algae. Colloidal substances means those substances which can able to hold water. The water holding substances are called colloids. Okay. The phycocolloids, algine, carrageen, agar, they have so many variety of commercial usage. Gelidium and Gracilaria, they have mentioned separately over there. They are the source of agar. That's why they are called agarophytes. They are called agarophytes. Agarophytes. What do you mean by agarophytes? They are the algae which produces agar. And chlorella. Chlorella which is used by space travelers. Space traveling is not that today I will take the flight and tomorrow I will come back in the evening. That's not the story. So they have to stay in the space for many months. Over there, if they have become malnutritious, gradually their health will be deteriorated and they will die even. For that, they need to have nutritious food. For that nutritious food, they could not able to take chicken biryani to the space. That's why they will have a special arrangement in the form of chlorella and spirogyra tablets. Chlorella they have mentioned over here, but spirogyra is also would be consumable because they are the rich source of the protein. They are called single cell proteins. Lower organisms, their complete body will be consumable. That's why that single cell proteins are very popular among the space travelers in order to provide that nutritious protein rich source. Ice creams, jelly, you know that. Chlorella. Remember, ma'am, I will take the content over there. I will elaborate here itself all those details. I will give you with the help of this chart. Okay, just follow me. Chlorophyceae, green algae. It is green in color because it has abundant chlorophylls. The chlorophyll content of green algae will be more. In that case, observe. You see chlorophyll A, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll A, but B, C, D are changing. Why it happens? First of all, chlorophyll A and B. Chlorophyll A and B are found in higher plants. Higher plants. Keep it in mind. Higher plants they are found, which means chlorophyll A, B. Apart from that, there would be a presence of xanthophylls, carotenoids also in case of higher plants. But be careful, there will be no chlorophyll C, chlorophyll D and phycobilins in higher plants. Higher plants do not have them. But algae will have variety of chlorophylls. Chlorophyll A, which is common, which is known as reaction center, without which there will be no possibility of photosynthesis at all. In that case, chlorophyll B is the special feature that we would see in case of higher plants, but in higher plants C, D, E, F phycobilins are absent. But in algae, they all are present. That's why they have specially noticed. Due to the abundant chlorophyll, green algae green in color. In case of brown algae, major photosynthetic pigment is of course chlorophyll A. Not only here, wherever you come across, there should be somebody who is performing photosynthesis. That photosynthesis releasing oxygen. Except some photosynthetic bacteria, remaining all groups of photosynthetic organisms, the major photosynthetic pigment should be chlorophyll A. Apart from chlorophyll A, no one can able to release oxygen to atmosphere. Keep the statement in the mind over there. Fucoxanthin, which is the one which provide brown color to brown algae. Next one. I'm not saying fucoxanthin is the major photosynthetic pigment in brown algae. No, it gives just only brown color. Now phycoerythrin. Now one thing I wanted to talk about this, which is also called R-phycoerythrin. R-phycoerythrin. Why did you call it as R? R stands for what? R stands for red algal phycoerythrin. One more is there, C phycoerythrin. Who is this C phycoerythrin? That's called cyanobacterial phycoerythrin. The cyanobacteria, remember the statement, the cyanobacteria, which has some cyanobacteria even have red color. The red color of the cyanobacteria is due to phycobilins. That phycobilin is called C phycobilin. And again, I wanted to say about phycobilin one thing. Phycobilins are exclusive algal pigments. Phycobilins are exclusive algal pigments. What do you mean by exclusive algal pigments? You don't find phycobilins elsewhere in the plant kingdom. They will be seen only in algae. That too not all algae, only in red algae, and some members of brown algae will also have these phycobilins. Getting the idea? Phycobilins are act as accessory photosynthetic pigment, not in higher plants, only in case of algae. They are exclusive for only algae. You don't see the phycobilins elsewhere in the plant kingdom. Next one. After that, observe, food will be stored in the form of starch. This should be noticed somewhat clearly. In case of green algae, in the green algae, food stored in the form of starch will be stored in special bodies called pyrenoids. Who are the pyrenoids? Pyrenoids act as the carbon dioxide reservoirs. No need that much detail. In the center, there is a core. The core of the pyrenoids made up of protein. That protein will be having rubisco and etc. kind of bodies. Next one. Around the pyrenoid, there will be a presence of starch sheath. Starch sheath. Remember, center protein, peripherally they have starch. That's why they say besides protein, starch will be stored. So, or beside the starch, protein will be stored. But be careful, the location is going to be perfect with respect to protein and starch. Protein will be the core, starch will be the sheath. Got it? Next one. Apart from that, mannitol laminarian, Floridian starch. This is special. Why Floridian starch is special? Structurally similar to glycogen and amylopectin, glycogen, which are highly branched polysaccharides. Floridian starch. Next, cell wall. One thing, easy to remember. Look at this statement. When we talk about cell wall in algae, algal cell wall will have two layers. Why two layers? They have to protect themselves from osmotic shock. They live in water. Since they live in water, their body should not have to absorb excess quantity of water. If the body absorbs more water, ultimately the plant cells will be swell up and they will die. So, in order to protect themselves from osmotic shock, two layers of cell wall they have developed. Inner layer is called cellulose. Outer layer sometimes vary with variety of names. For example, inner layer cellulose, outer layer pectin in case of green algae. Inner layer is cellulose, outer layer algin in case of brown algae. Inner layer is cellulose, outer layer is agar-agar, carrageen, which are called polysulfate esters. Okay, next one. That's about cellulosic matter. Flagella. Observe that flagella importance gradually reduces from green algae to red algae. Green algae will have 2 to 8 flagella. Here unequal flagella and the gametes will be pear shaped. pear shape, no, pear fruit shaped gametes will be there. But here to gametes, flagella is totally absent. Flagellated bodies are totally absent in case of red algae. But one member of green algae who do not have flagella is Spirogyra. They live in freshwater brackish. Brackish means semi-salt water, which is also the water where river meets sea. The estuary place, some water will be present, that's called, okay, brackish water. Water, remember that freshwater is rare. Here also freshwater some. Most of them will be salt water. Here most of them will be brackish water, salt water, okay, careful. Most of the green algae are freshwater, rarely salt. Most of the red algae are marine water, very few are freshwater. Here mixed up. Even though very few are freshwater, most of them will be in marine, especially most of the brown algae are also marine because they form kelp, massive bodies. Massive bodies could not be able to develop in shallow waters, they would be developed only in depth water. Next one. Observe this story. You know that pear shape, you can find out those things which you needed to remember. Next one. Sexual reproduction in red algae is oogamous. It's not that only oogamous. Oogamy, isogamy, anisogamy, almost all will be possible. Is it okay? Are you getting the idea? All will be possible, but most of them will perform oogamous type of sexual reproduction. Over there, they say accompanied by post-fertilization changes. What do you mean by post-fertilization changes? Why did they mention that? Remember, if you talk about algae, algae are non-embryophytes. What you said them? Non-embryophytes. Non-embryophytes. What do you mean by non-embryophytes? They do not have embryo at all. In the life cycle, when zygote has been formed, that zygote will be divided by meiosis and immediately there will be a production of spores. So that there is no chance for the production of embryo at all in case of algae. Very few algae can produce embryo, that is also embryo-like structure. But when it comes to red algae, the situation is totally changed. There what happened in red algae, oogamy mode of sexual reproduction. Imagine they have a female sex organ. Of course, the female sex organ of red algae will have a special name called carpogonium. Carpogonium. Is it okay? That carpogonium, observe this. The carpogonium, somebody saying green algae marine, very few green algae are marine. Most of them are freshwater. I have seen some more, okay, similar to, let me continue. Okay, carpogonium. What happened in the carpogonium? There is a presence of egg in the carpogonium. That egg will be fertilized. After the formation of zygote, zygote has to be divided by meiosis. That is the rule. But here the zygote will be divided by mitosis and produce carpogoniospores. Carpogoniospores. Formation of this carpogoniospores is a special type of adaptation by marine algae. That's the reason why they say marine algae, especially red algae, will have complex post-fertilization changes. Why it is complex? Generally, zygote has to undergo meiosis, but their zygote is not undergoing meiosis, and at the same time they are not producing embryo also. Zygote undergo mitosis and they will produce a special kind of body. That body depends on gametophyte for a while. Altogether, it is little bit complex with respect to algae, but with respect to higher plant, it would be simple. Are you getting? In higher plant, this is common, but in case of algae, it is very rare. That's the reason why they say Red algae will have complex post-fertilization changes. Next, after the algae, go to a situation called as bryophytes. Now, before going to bryophytes, I'd like to explain a concept that is called alternation of generations. Alternation of generations. Alternation of generations. What does it mean by alternation of generation? Alternation means, let us see one small hypothetical thing. A hen and an egg. If egg is not there, there will be no hen. If hen is not there, there will be no egg. Both are alternate each other. If egg is not there, no hen, no egg, like that both are connected alternatively. This same concept, it is also there in case of the plant in between gametes producing gametophyte and spore producing sporophyte. What does it mean by this? Somebody said something that. Okay, we will talk about those things later on. Okay, let me complete alternation of generation first. This is somewhat needed to understand further processes. So let me focus there. Gametophyte, sporophyte, if you're talking about these two, if a plant which completes sexual reproduction without gametophyte and sporophyte, a plant cannot able to complete sexual life cycle. Sexual life cycle would be generally thought to have only gametes. But in plant life cycle, there will be a development of two bodies which are highly essential in order to complete the sexual life cycle of a plant. One body is called gametophyte, it has to produce gametes. Another body is called sporophyte, which has to produce spores. Imagine, we know what is the importance of gametes, because we know that without the gamete, there will be no chance for fertilization. But what about spores? Think about this. Plants are static. They confined to one location. Imagine a plant growing in a soil. That soil has less nutrients. Plant suddenly realize, I started to grow in bad place, so I will shift my place. It's not possible, because one time if they establish, that is their lifelong place. If such kind of places, nutrient deficit soil, more plants are growing. Ultimately, their life will be in danger. That's why plants like to go to new places in order to establish their new organisms. See, by itself a plant cannot able to move, but plant needed some kind of motile bodies to shift their location from one place to another. Obviously, am I correct? In that case, the plant started to develop a special kind of dispersible bodies to make them to be going from one area to another area. They are called spores. Imagine, if a plant could not produce spores, that plant will die wherever it go. Am I correct? Because it has to move to new places in order to establish in the form of a new body. Got it? That's the reason why plants produces spores. Now, imagine a plant has produced spore. That spore has found a new place which is rich with nutrients. The spore started to germinate. Observe this. The word spore, very important in order to disperse in lower plants. But in higher plants, the word spore has been replaced by another thing that is called seed. In lower plants, up to pteridophyte, spore is very essential for dispersal of a plant. In gymnosperms and angiosperm, spore is not required for dispersal. Does it mean that gymnosperm and angiosperm have learned to walk? No. They started to develop another body which is similar to spore, that is called seed. We will talk about the journey slowly, but remember, a spore has found a new place which is rich with nutrients. The spore started to germinate. The germinated spore will produce gametophytes. I am going to explain some rules and regulations here. These rules and regulations are not going to change from one group of plant to another. They will be common for all plants. Got the idea? If you say a spore germinated, it has to produce gametophyte only. That's the rule what I want to go with explanation. Spore germinated and produce gametophyte. What do you mean by gametophyte? It has to produce gametes. In order to produce gametes, they develop, gametophyte develop sex organs. Sex organs. Sex organs means the places where there is a development of, the places where there is a development of gametes. Those areas are called sex organs. What are the sex organs typically seen in the plants? Male sex organ is called antheridium, which is a male one. Female sex organ is called generally archegonium. What about antheridium will do? It produces sperm. Sperm is nothing but male gamete. Archegonium, which is a flask shaped body, which is produce an egg. Antheridium, archegonium, wherever you come across, they will be present only on gametophyte. Antheridium, archegonium will never develop on sporophyte. You understand? Next, sperm and egg, let them keep there. And I wanted to talk about the ploidy with respect to the particular body. Spores are always haploid. Since spore is haploid, it can undergo mitosis, and gametophyte will be also haploid. Sex organs are also haploid, and they produces sperm and egg. Both are also haploid. Then in one fine day, they started to fertilize. The chances they will take, and there will be a process called fertilization. As a result of the fertilization, there will be a development of zygote. The fertilization once completed, here fertilization, zygote has been formed. The zygote, it started to develop further in the form of embryo. That's why this word I was not mentioning with respect to algae. I'm not saying alternation of generations are not found in algae, but embryo is not seen in case of algae. Most of the algae do not have embryo. Got it? Zygote develop into embryo. This embryo has to be established in the form of sporophyte. You said sporophyte. The sporophyte has to produce spores. If it produces spores, it needs an organ that is called sporangium. It needs an organ called sporangium. Sporangium is the place where there is a production of spores. Gametophyte produces gametes. Where? In the air. It will produce gametes only in particular sex organs. Male gametes antheridium, female gametes archegonium. Sporophyte, you said it will produce spores. Am I right? If it producing spores, there should be a place for the production of the spore. That place is called sporangium. Sporangium contains spore mother cell, who will undergo meiosis and produces spores. Then let us find their ploidy one by one. Zygote is always diploid. Of course, embryo is also diploid. Sporophyte also diploid. Sporangium is also diploid. Spore mother cell also diploid. Now, when I talk about these generations, observe from zygote to spore mother cell. This life is called sporophytic generation. Sporophytic generation, which is diploid. From spore to gametes. This life is called as gametophytic generation. Gametophytic generation, which should be haploid. Understand? Like this, observe the connection. I told you in the beginning, there is a relation between hen and egg. Similarly, there is a relation between gametophyte and sporophyte. If gametophyte is not there, no gametes, no zygote. Zygote is the first cell of sporophytic generation. Next, if sporophyte is not there, what will happen? Spore production will be stopped because the spore is the first cell of gametophytic generation. Altogether, gametophyte is not there, sporophyte would not come. Sporophyte is not there, gametophyte would not come. Always the life cycle of a sexually reproducing plant revolving in between the gametes producing gametophyte and spore producing sporophyte. This phenomenon is called as alternation of generation. This alternation of generation is not there in case of animal kingdom. Why? They need not to produce dispersal body. They produce a body that could be self-dispersed. Are we developed by spores? No, we produced by few union of gametes directly. The embryo develop into new organism. Again, the organism produce gametes and new organism will be developed. But that is not the case in plants. Plants will have two stages in the sexual life cycle. Gametes, spores. Gametes for fertilization, spores for dispersal. If an organism or if a plant could not produce spore, it is not able to be dispersed. If an organism could not be able to produce gametes, it could not able to be fertilized. Altogether, gamete producing gametophyte, spore producing sporophyte. Now I am telling the sequence one more time. Keep it in mind, this is important. Spores, gametophyte, sex organs, gametes, fertilization, zygote, embryo, sporophyte, sporangium and spore mother cell who undergo meiosis and produces spore. This sequence should not be changed. Nothing will be reversed. Gametes never produce spores. Are you getting the idea? If you wanted to get gametes, you need to have spore which has to develop in the form of gametophyte and the sequence should be flowing like that. Understand? Next one. Let us go to bryophytes. Observe the well-known concept regarding to bryophytes. These are the first land plants. First land plants. Why are you saying they are first land plants? You have noticed one thing. Almost all algae are aquatic. Some live in fresh, some live in marine, some live in brackish, whatever it is, they are water. But bryophytes decided we don't want to live in water. So we have to go to land. Even though they have come to land, the situation has been changed like this. They are land plants but need water for sexual reproduction. They need water for sexual reproduction. Bryophytes have come after algae, right? Earlier, bryophytes have come after the algae. Are you getting the idea? Earlier, what was happening? When they were, look at the statement carefully. When they were in the form of algae, they used to do everything in water. But right now, suddenly they have come to land. We don't like water, so we will go to land. They have come to land. On the land, they have got the difficulty. We forgot. We need water for transfer of our male gametes. Without water, our male gametes will not fly, they are able to swim. That's why we needed to live nearby the water. That's the reason why they were still decided as amphibians of plant kingdom. They are amphibians of plant kingdom. Got it? Next one. Be careful. In bryophytes, fertilization does not occur in water. They do not perform external fertilization like a frog and a fish. They perform internal fertilization only. They perform oogamy. But still, the male gametes, in order to reach towards female sex organ, they depend on water. That's the reason why we will say bryophytes are amphibians of plant kingdom. Keep this statement in mind. Okay, they are amphibians of plant kingdom not because they have fertilization in water. They need water to transfer the male gametes towards female gamete. Is it okay? If they are saying one statement, in case of bryophyte, fertilization occur in water, that means it is an external fertilization. Absolutely wrong. No plant group is performing external fertilization. They are not fish or frog. Okay. Next one. You will have one story. The major plant body in bryophyte is gametophyte. Okay. Let me go one by one. These things. Bryophytes are called amphibians of the plant kingdom because they live in water, they can live in soil but depend on water for sexual reproduction. They usually occur in damp, cool, shady places because they have a body called as protonema. That protonema would grow nearby shady places. In open sunlight they could not be able to survive because just now they have come from water. If they are coming from water right now, if they are exposed to our Vijayawada sunlight, automatically they die. That's why they will have one phenomena called, they always choose a shady place. It should be damp, that means somewhat wet, and also they need somehow the cool environment to be survived. Okay? All that story, whatever I have mentioned, Archegonium, Antheridium, and Antherozoids are nothing but male gametes. They have repeated here. Next one. Bryophytes are general of little economic importance. Some are used, but over there, you remember sphagnum. Sphagnum is a peat moss. Okay? One more thing. Whenever they are asking about sequence, I told you the sequence, right? Spore, gametophyte, that sequence repeatedly they are asking. In the last exam also they have asked one kind of sequence. Do you remember? That sequences you have to remember. So that flow, the direction, spore to gametophyte, gametophyte to sex organ, sex organs to gametes, gametes to zygote, zygote to embryo, embryo to sporophyte, sporophyte to sporangium, sporangium to, that sequence should never be backward and it should never be changed. That should be the same sequence every plant will follow. Okay? The peat moss which produces peat, which is a fuel, and also it is the one which can be used for transshipment of live material from one country to another country. That plant or anything that they want to transfer, they transfer in the peat. Next one. When they are talking about bryophytes, they have mentioned two kinds of bryophyte, liverworts and mosses. But one more group is there, that's hornwort. That hornwort concept is not mentioned in NCERT book. But remember, if they are talking, bryophytes are divided into liverworts and mosses. If they given liverworts and mosses only, that is wrong. One more group is there, that's called hornwort. Of course, they have not mentioned it, but that group is there in the field. Liverworts, these are lower bryophytes. Now here you have to remember about liverworts one thing. Look at this. A well-known liverwort, that is Markensia. Markensia life cycle we will discuss. First, there will be a spore. The spore is haploid or diploid? Come on, let me confirm. Spore is haploid or diploid? Always spore should be haploid body. Am I right? The spore germinated. In order to germinate that spore, they required cool, damp, shady places. That's a story in the beginning. Now, the spore will be produced gametophyte. But in case of Mertensia, two types of gametophytes would be produced. One is male gametophyte, another one is female gametophyte. Two types of gametophytes would be produced. The male, for example, male and female gametophytes are produced. That is their capacity. That's why Mertensia will be a dioecious Mertensia would be dioecious gametophytes. Got it? Now this is one, this is another one. Over there, you remember, on this flat body, not all liverworts are flat. The example that they have given is Mertensia, which is flat, dorsiventral and oppressed. Up and down would be easily clear. But one more is there, a leafy member. Leafy member, that's called rhizia. What is the rhizia? Rhizia will have some structures which are almost leaf-like, and the leaves will be growing, opposite phyllotaxy type, like that. The leaves will be present in two rows. One row this, one row this. Leaf-like, of course, they don't have well-developed leaf. They have leaf-like arrangements which run in two rows. Understand? Then come back to this gametophyte, this gametophyte. Over there, observe. When it comes to gametophyte, the gametophyte will develop a cup-like structure. This is called Jama cup. Inside the Jama cup, multicellular green photosynthetic bodies will be present. They are called gemmae. When they fall on the ground, they can be helping in asexual or vegetative propagation. Next one. How to recognize male Mertensia and female Mertensia? You see here, this body called antheridiophore. Be careful, it's not antheridium. The branch is called antheridiophore. On the top of it, you will see this one. This is called antheridium. This is called antheridium. Antheridium is male sex organ. On the branch where antheridium developed, that branch is called as antheridiophore. Phore means carrier, or the one on the top of it, it carries another one. Okay? Next one. Archegoniophore. The archegoniophore, the phore is carrying a flower-like structure. This is called archegonium, female sex organ. Female sex organ produce single egg. Antheridium will produces antherozoids, which are able to be motile, and they will grow. They can swim inside the water, and they can reach to female sex organ and the fertilization. That fertilization leads to development of zygote. Am I correct? The zygote will develop embryo. Now I would like to say one thing. Bryophytes are the first embryophytes in the plant kingdom. That means conformly a group of plant that they have produced gamete. Conformly a group of plant that they have produced embryo. That embryo producing first group of plants are called bryophytes. That's why bryophytes are first embryophytes. Here and there, in algae also, we will find some members are producing embryo or embryo-like structure, but embryo formation is not common for all algae. That's why we will decide algae as non-embryophyte. But when it comes to bryophytes are considered as embryophytes. First embryophytes in the plant kingdom. Embryo produced. What is the next step of embryo? Sporophyte production. From here, sporophyte will be developed. This sporophytic body will attach us to gametophyte. That's the reason why when it comes to bryophyte, one statement will be developed. Imagine this is a gametophyte. On the top of the gametophyte, there is a development of sporophyte. So tell me, who is attached to soil? Gametophyte. Who is attaching on whom? Sporophyte attaching on gametophyte. That's the reason why In bryophyte, gametophyte depend on sporophyte. Gametophyte depend on sporophyte. Now somebody is asking, Gamma are haploid or diploid? Nothing to be worried. Gamma grow on which one? Gametophyte. If it is gametophyte is body, definitely should be haploid. Got it? Next one. This is the statement we will come across for all bryophyte. Gametophyte depend on sporophyte. Next one. Go to after liverworts, we have mosses. Mosses are highly advanced bryophytes, mosses. In that, one speciality is there. The predominant stage of the mosses is gametophyte. In bryophytes, the predominant stage is, of course, gametophyte, but in that, they have first stage called protonema. What is this protonema? This is a spore. The spore germinated and produce a creeping filamentous body. It grow like a grasses. That creeping filamentous body, we will call it as protonema. Protonema. Keep it in mind. The protonema would never develop in case of liverworts. If a bryophyte that it is developed protonema, it should be definitely moss. Liverworts never develop protonema. Next one. When it comes to protonema, there are many branches. On one of the branch, there will be a development of leafy body. The leafy body is the place where there is a development of sex organs. Remember, protonema and leafy body both are gametophytes. They are gametophytes. Of course, they are developed from spore. They are gametophytes, but only leafy stage will develop sex organs. If only leafy stage is developed sex organ, that is the place where gametes can be generated. Protonema cannot produce gametes. Understand? Protonema will produce only vegetative reproduction or fragmentation, but it never produces gametes. Since you are a part of a gametophyte, because you are producing from spores and you are a part of gametophyte, but you have to produce gametes. In order to produce gametes, you have to develop sex organ. Yourself cannot produce sex organ, so that we will develop a leafy stage. The leafy stage is the one where it is developing sex organs and produce gametes. The remaining story will be the same. All the things will be same. Only that, liverworts, mosses, remaining all stories are same. But the only difference is, in liverworts, there is no stage of protonema. Two stages, protonema, leafy stage, are the primary structures of spore germination, are primary structures of gametophytic generation in case of mosses. But these liverworts do not have this condition called protonema. Okay. Next, remaining things you can able to find out. Secondary protonema. Next, come back to pteridophytes. Next one. Pteridophytes are first vascular plants. First vascular plants. Remember, when it comes to bryophytes, the body of the bryophyte may have root-like, stem-like, leaf-like structures, but you should not conformly call them root, stem, leaf. The concept of root, stem, leaf with well-developed vascular bundle started from pteridophytes onwards. Pteridophytes are the first land plants which possess vascular bodies. Now, the same problem they have also faced. What problem? We have come out of the water, but still we grow near to the water. Why do we grow near to the water? Our spores needed water to move from place to place. If you want to grow in a new place, it is not possible with that habit. That's why there were two groups of pteridophytes developed. One group is called homosporous pteridophytes, which is major. Another group is called heterosporous pteridophyte, which is minor. Of course, Homosporous pteridophytes are still have most of the characters that are similar to Bryophytes, but they have some slight variations in their body. Okay, here the major plant body in case of pteridophytes, major is sporophyte. What was the major plant body in Bryophytes? That was gametophyte. But here the major plant body is sporophyte. Is it okay? Then still they have the life that is almost similar to Bryophytes, homosporous pteridophyte. I would like to read the things. After that I will explain the life cycle of the particular homosporous and heterosporous. First, pteridophytes includes horsetails and ferns. Pteridophytes are used in medicinal purposes. They are also frequently known as ornamentals. For example, fern. Fern is an ornamental. Evolutionally, they are the first terrestrial plants possess vascular bundle. Okay. You recall the Bryophyte dominant phase in the life cycle is gametophyte. However, in pteridophyte, the main plant body is sporophyte. First time the sporophytic or diploid plant body has started to grow directly on the surface of the soil from the pteridophytes onwards. They have leaves, sometimes microphyllous, sometimes macrophyllous. Fern macrophyllous, microphyllous selaginella. Sporophyte bears sporangia, that is subtended by. What do you mean by subtended? For example, imagine this is a leaf. You are saying sporophyte will have 3 organs: root, stem, leaf. When you can call that body as a sporophyte? If it produces spores. Okay, if it is produce spores, then only we will call it as sporophyte. In order to produce spores, it needs sporangium. Body contains 3 organs: root, stem, leaf. Any one of this body can have to produce sporangium. That body where sporangium will be produced, that is nothing but leaf. Subtended. Subtended means growing behind. These are all are sporangium. What for the sporangium? Sporangium is meant for the production of spores. The leaf which produces sporangium is called sporophyll. Sporophyll. Okay. Next one. Which is differentiated into leaves. Organs, well differentiated tissues. Okay. Some are sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called strobili or cone. Remember, what is a sporophyll? The leaf that contains sporangium, that's called sporophyll. Okay. If any damage is happened to the sporophyll, that means the leaf which bears sporangium has been damaged. Obviously, the sporangium will damage and the spore producing ability will also be disturbed. That ultimately disturbs the entire sexual reproduction process. That's why they come with a new idea. Whatever the leaves which are producing this sporangium, the leaf which produces sporangium is called sporophyll. Got it? All sporophylls collected in one place and they arrange like a compact structure. That compact structure which produces sporophyll, they call it as strobili or cone. Cones will not be produced by all pteridophytes, only few. The example, Selaginella and Equisetum. Sporangia produce spores by meiosis. That phenomena we know very well. Next, they wanted to say free living, mostly spore will be germinate and produce free living, inconspicuous. This is important, ma. When it comes to pteridophyte, their spore, the sporangia produce spores by meiosis, spore mother cells. The spore germinate gives rise inconspicuous. Inconspicuous means very small, not visible clearly, and also multicellular, mostly photosynthetic, and also thalloid body. This thalloid gametophyte is called prothallus. Remember, prothallus is a gametophyte of homosporous pteridophyte. Protonema is a gametophyte of mosses. Among the bryophyte, mosses will have an ability to produce protonema. Next one, the gametophyte require, which gametophyte? Prothallus. Still they have cool, damp, shady places requirement. If they have cool, damp, shady places, because of this specific requirement restricted and the need for the water for the fertilization, the spread of the living pteridophyte is limited and protected in narrow geographical location. What does it mean by this? Imagine production of spore is compulsory to complete alternation of generation. That is not for just pteridophyte, any pteridophyte or any kind of plant, in order to complete sexual reproduction, it has to produce spore. Yes, it produces spore. In pteridophytes, this spore required cool, damp, shady places to grow. Okay. If a pteridophyte has grown in open environment, which means a pteridophyte I have planted in an area where this cool, damp, shady place is not available, that pteridophyte would not propagate it, because if it want to grow next generation, the spore requires that particular environment. That's why pteridophytes have been restricted on our globe only on some special places. That special place, they are calling it as narrow geographical location, because their spores required cool, damp, shady places. I am sending a spore. That spore will germinate only in cool, damp, shady places. If the cool, damp, shady place is not available, the spore will never germinate. Ultimately, the spreading of the pteridophyte will be ceased or is not possible at all. That's the reason why whatever the pteridophytes are growing on the globe right now, they are restricted to only some narrow geographical places, because spore required cool, damp, shady place. Spore germinate and produce prothallus. That prothallus could not able to grow in normal open sunlight. That prothallus required cool, damp, shady place. What is this damp condition? Then how do we rectify? In order to rectify this problem, some pteridophyte come with a new idea. Why we are restricted to this narrow geographical location? Because our spores needed this environment. We do one thing. We don't allow our spores to depend on this cool, damp, shady place. We will allow the spores to grow wherever they produced. If I release the spores outside, that spore will ask cool, damp, shady place. But now I will not release my spore outside. It will produce in the sporangium. Within the sporangium, I will make that spore to be germinated in the form of gametophyte. This idea established in the form of heterospory. There are some pteridophytes have come with this idea. We don't release our spores outside and make them not to be depending on cool, damp, shady place. So let us keep our spores inside the sporangium. Then the new concept developed that sporangium should provide nutrients to spores to be germinate. Then they protected the sporangium, given the nutrients, and the sporangium is the place where spores started to germinate. At the time they realized we should not produce these many spores. More the spores, more the nutrients required. Then they reduce the number of spore. In order to reduce the number of spore, two types of spores develop. One is called megaspore, another one is called microspore. So most of the pteridophytes are homosporous. Some come with a new idea called heterosporous pteridophytes like Selaginella salvinia. There, small spores, male gametophytes, large spores, female gametophytes produce. Smaller the spore, they call it as microspore. Larger the spore, they call it as megaspores. Megaspores will be produced in megasporangium. Microspores produced in microsporangium. Like that, two kinds of spores started to produce in heterosporous pteridophyte. Heterosporous pteridophytes have come with new idea to avoid that restricted narrow geographical area, but they have not successfully avoided the place. Later, after the pteridophytes, there is a development of a group of a plant called gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are the one who come with a better idea. We will protect megasporangium with a special kind of layer called integument. That integumented megasporangium later modified in the form of ovule. Within the ovule, they have kept egg. The egg once fertilized become embryo. Embryo will be protected by these integuments. Later, this integumented megasporangium, so-called ovule, convert in the form of seed. First, you want to get a seed. You need to have megasporangium, microsporangium separately. Who gave this idea of megasporangium and microsporangium separately? Heterosporous pteridophytes. That's the reason why heterospory leads to development of seed habit, or heterospory acted as a foundation to the development of seed habit. Heterospory acted as precursor. Precursor means foundation to development of seed habit. Be very careful. We are not suggesting that heterosporous pteridophytes are producing seeds. That is absolutely wrong. Heterosporous pteridophytes do not have seed habit, but they are the one who gave foundation to the development of seed habit. If they didn't have the habit of heterospory, gymnosperms might not be developed. When gymnosperms have come, they have protected their megasporangium, which contain nucellus and other kind of requirements, and the integumented megasporangium would not be called as ovule. If ovule is not there, there is no concept of seed. So altogether, if a plant has developed seed habit, that plant must be having heterospory. So heterospory leads to seed habit. That's what they wanted to say here with few lines. Gametophyte bear male and female sex organ called antheridia and archegonia respectively. Water is required for the transfer of antherozoids, and male gametes released from antheridia to the mouth of archegonium. Fusion of male and female gamete leads to formation of zygote. Zygote transfer produces multicellular, well differentiated dominant phase of the pteridophyte. What is the dominant phase of the pteridophyte? Sporophyte. Okay. Majority of the pteridophytes, all spores of the similar kinds, that is called homosporous. Genera like Selaginella, Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spore. One is macro, large spore. Another one is micro, small spores. Heterosporous, megasporous and microsporous pteridophyte rise to use, that male gamete megaspores leads to development of female gametophyte. Microspores leads to development of male gametophyte. Microspore megaspore concept started from heterosporous pteridophyte, but this concept was highly matured and established with respect to gymnosperms. And they say the female gametophyte in these plants retain, underline that, very important. The female gametophyte retain on parent sporophyte for variable periods. The development of zygote into within the young embryo is placed in the female gametophyte. This event is the precursor of seed habit. That's what I have explained so far. Next one, gymnosperms. You know that they are the naked seed plant. That concept you can understand. Gymnosperms are the heterosporous. All gymnosperms and angiosperms are heterosporous. There is no a group of angiosperm or gymnosperm who can follow homospory. The concept of heterospory is begun from pteridophytes, but all gymnosperms have become heterosporous. That later on Angiosperms also adopted the phenomena of heterospory. Next one. Two kinds of spores produce. Sporangia bear sporophylls which are arranged spiral in the axis, and lax means loose structures. For example, in case of cycas, they don't have cones. Female cones are absent because megasporophylls will be arranged loosely. That loose arrangement is called laxative, loosening the things. The strobili bears microsporophylls and microsporangia are called microsporangiate male strobili. The spores developed into male gametophyte generation, which is highly reduced. The male gametophyte is called pollen grain. Male gametophyte, pollen grain. Female gametophyte here, in case of gymnosperm, it is called as, what do we call it as? Female gametophyte. Female gametophyte is also called endosperm in gymnosperms, because the endosperm, it will feed the developing embryos. Female gametophyte itself in future will act as endosperm. The development of pollen grain takes place within the microsporangia. The cones bearing megasporophylls with ovules are megasporangia called female cones are megasporangiate. Male and female cones are strobili may be born on the same, that is monoecious. Pinus is monoecious. Cycas is dioecious. Okay, those stories you can able to understand the later on. Regarding to angiosperms, you study only this. In old NCERT book, you have a variety of things. Those things are not necessary for us. If you have any doubts, you can post it there. I can help you. Come on. In pteridophytes and gymnosperms, sporophyte is dominant. Yes, the major plant body is any more? Somebody saying, can you give sequences from this chapter? We could note down. I have given, right? I have given that sequence. Okay, you just pause that particular part of the video and you can able to take it down. Life cycles are not necessary. Don't waste your time. Okay. Any more questions? Pteridophytes, somebody says, pteridophytes do not have seed habit. They could not produce seeds. They have an event, that is, they produce spores within megasporangium. That ability later acted as precursor for the development of seed habit. Okay. Angiosperms are sufficient that we present, that much sufficient, no need. Double fertilization occur in angiosperms, of course. New textbook enough for angiosperms. You don't need to go for, because we have a separate lesson, that is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Flowering plants means angiosperms only. Sporophyte, now remember this, in bryophyte, gametophyte is major, pteridophyte onwards, sporophyte is major. In bryophyte, sporophyte depend on gametophyte. In pteridophytes, gametophyte, sporophyte, initially they are having some sort of independent existence, but altogether both are independent. Gymnosperms onwards, gametophyte depend on sporophyte. That's the story. All pteridophytes are homosporous? Obviously not. Okay. Yes, if male and female sex organ produced on the same thallus, that is called monoecious. Different body, that's called dioecious. Okay. Algae is eukaryote. Whatever the eukaryotic flagella features, same flagella features will be there in algae also. Somebody is asking that. Families, my suggestion is, repeatedly people are asking what about families, what about families. My suggestion, this is just a suggestion, just one time briefly go through the families. About each family, you remember a particular, for example, Fabaceae family. They have papillonaceous corolla, diadelphous stamen, and such kind of special features remember. Apart from that, if you are digging for each family, that would be unnecessary for you. MBPC students can attempt JEE and NEET. Yes, you can attempt. Only JEE requirement is you need to complete maths, at least one paper of the maths. We had 2 papers for the maths, one paper at +2 level. That is the requirement for JEE. Okay, if you have taken MBPC, it is easy to write either JEE or this one. Somebody say botany is too difficult. If you stand in front of me, it is not. Sarin Saika, Spinus, Ginkgo, in these, which is living fossil? Ginkgo is commonly called as living fossil because it has some kind of features that are very old. See, paper would be, somebody is asking, what would be the paper level? Paper level, you expect the paper level somehow similar. Don't get panic. It's not the time to discuss the levels, etc., etc. You just be with your work. Imagine if the paper is very easy, you have got 680 marks, for example. I'm saying just 680 marks you have got. Paper is somewhat lenient. And paper is very difficult, very difficult. Top mark is 650 and you got 590. Both ways, your rank will be same. Your rank is the one which give you MBBS seat, not your marks. Understand that. No. You should, somebody is asking, should we skip diagrams from NCERT? Definitely not. You should practice each and every diagram of NCERT book. Morphology is also there for the syllabus. They will post the thing in the thing, in your app or somewhere, whatever the way they communicate, they will get it. Archegonia numbering. There are so many archegonia in gymnosperms, but there is no archegonia in angiosperms. Yes, morphology lesson is there for the syllabus. Any more? Yes, hepatic apsida means liverworts. Hornworts, Bryopsida, hepatic apsida, liverwort, that is one more, Anthoceropsida, they were there. Those names are not there in our living world. Is also there for the exam. You just go through it. Okay, that's fine. We will meet in the next class. Do well. Practice well. Don't watch news much. The things, what you need to know, you will come to know. So forget about that online things, news, etc., etc. Focus on your study. Okay? See, what happened is not in our hand. What we respond, that would be in our hand. So respond better. Don't be disappointed. Just focus. If something is yours, nobody can take it from you. If something is not yours, that's not yours. Okay? We will meet in the next class. Bye.